Hey, good morning. My name's Ed Moose Skowron. I pick up the Moose because my last name, Skowron, was the first baseman of the New York Yankees back in the 50s. So that got hung on me and I couldn't get rid of it. And I grew up in Western Mass in the Berkshires. And when I got out of high school, I went to the Aviation Cadet program and I spent 24 years in the Air Force flying all the different fighters of that era, except the F-86. I got to start the F-84 and work my way through to the F-100 and into the F-105. So in Southeast Asia, I began flying the 105 at the beginning of the war. I flew the first organized combat mission of the war. And then later in 1973, I flew the last day of the war in Southeast Asia, in the A-7 in Cambodia. So I got to bracket that period pretty well. I get a lot of notoriety for being shot down on my 99th mission in the 105. And that was not the best mission because there were 98 before that were a heck of a lot better than that one. Now that was pretty exciting and a really thrilling mission to get shot down and picked up just off the coast and get shot up in the water, and the HU-16 pulls you in under gunfire and you get out of there. But before that, during the phase of the war in North Vietnam, I had a couple of other missions, many other missions that were a lot more thrilling as far as combat goes. One was a mission where we were supposed to go north of the Thai Nguyen steel mill and hit the Thai Nguyen rail yard northwest of Hanoi and just south of the Thud Ridge area. Four of us were going to do that morning, and myself and Ken North was going to be flying 3, Leon Garner was flying 4. And as we crossed the Red, starting down into North Vietnam, we were about 18,000 feet off the tanker. I looked over the side and I saw muzzle flashes. They had 85s and 100 millimeter guns there. So I just started saying, let's come hard left. But with that, Ken said, I'm hit. And I looked over my shoulder and I could see that he took a hit. Well, Leon was on his wing. I said, Leon, stay with him. Myself and my wingman, and I said, the target's just out of the other side of the river. We're going to hit that, drop our load, and then we'll come back and relieve you, and you can go to the tanker. So we left them, and Leon stayed with Ken. He eventually punched out, and myself, and I have to think for a minute. Trying to think who my wingman was that day. Anyway, we started for this pop-up north of Thai Nguyen to hit some 55-gallon fuel drums in bomb craters by the Thai Nguyen rail yard. Now this is way up in North Vietnam, and this is kind of silly going after 55-gallon oil drums in bomb craters. And we made the turn around Thud Ridge, came south, popped up, and as I popped up, 104 popped up across from me, and he took an SA-2 dead center. All I saw was the pitot boom and the wingtips of this 104. I did a couple of quick turns looking for the rail yard and the fuel drums, but they had put smoke pots out, and the ground was pretty well covered with smoke. But in one of these reversals, I looked down and I saw this big black rail yard. Rail tracks, the tracks went into it. It was big and heavy black. I said, that's good enough for me. I had 5 1,000 pounders, and the other guy had 5 1,000 pounders. So we rolled in, had a good pass on it, and let those go into this black top rail yard. There was a secondary explosion that must have gone to 1,000 feet, and you could hear people up the valley. Other flights, holy cow! Somebody got something. Holy, did you see that? And so, woo, whatever that was pretty thrilling. So we came out of there and went back and worked our way back out, and I got in touch with Leon. I said, how's it going with Ken? He said, he just told me they got him. He said, they're coming for me right now. So we hung around there for a while waiting for another Thud flight to come in and relieve us. They finally came in, and by then myself and my wingman were minimum fuel, so we stopped at Udorn to gas up in northern Thailand. We went into their intelligence debrief, and there was the intelligence tech sergeant and a major. And he said, what did you hit? And I said, I hit a blacktop rail yard that really exploded. It was amazing. He said, and he showed me a picture. He said, is this it? I said, that's it. He said, that's not good. That's JCS target 49. That is a no-strike target. That's the Thai Nguyen steel mill. I said, oh, really? But as a quick-witted fighter pilot, I said, let's just plot those down about 300 meters down here to the Tynegan rail yard, which was right down the track a little bit. He said, that's good. I said, okay, we'll report it as something that came out of the Tynegan rail yard. And the major was standing there, and I thought they had it all put together. So we went back to the airplanes, took off, went back to Karat, landed, got cleaned up, had a bite to eat, wrote a letter to Ken's wife, got to bed maybe 10 or 11 o'clock, but about 2 in the morning, a flashlight in my face from an NCO said, hey, get up, you've got to come down to the command post, you got to talk to the Pentagon. What? So I get up, go down to the command post, get on the line. Oh, it's the morning briefing with McNamara and President Johnson. He said, we got a report here that you hit the Tynegan steel mill. I said, no, that's wrong. We hit the Tynegan rail yard. It's about 300 meters away. He said, that's a good thing because you'd be in real trouble if it was the Tynegan steel mill. I said, yeah, like we're not in real trouble here every day. So that particular event was more thrilling than a lot of other days that I'd had, even at the getting shot down in '99. There were a number of occasions during the war where there were simple missions that turned into hectic periods of time. Before there were Sandys, the Air Sea Rescue A-1, propeller-driven A-1s going out to search for downed pilots, we had a flight of 4 F-105s loaded all the time called Whiplash. And if someone was shot down deep into enemy territory, they immediately scrambled, found the downed aviator, and tried to get as much cover and recovery program that you could get going on. I was sitting there one day in Whiplash, and we got a quick call after some F-4s had struck San La, which is up by Dien Bien Phu, the northwest corner of North Vietnam. And one F-4 had gotten shot down, and an Air America helicopter that went in to try to pick somebody up also got shot down. So we were sent up there to take a look, see what we could find. Made calls on the radio for any of those people, got no return. But the hills in that area were probably up to 3,500 feet, and the weather was down to about 5,000 or 6,000 feet, so there wasn't much room to operate below the clouds. And I noticed in the runway at the San La Airport, white smoke drifting out of the west end of the runway. I thought, well, that was from some bomb hit from earlier in the day. And there was an area to the northwest of that, a built-up military area, and in that was a gun that was occasionally putting out rounds, either a 23 or a 37 millimeter. So kind of avoided that. And we started searching around the town of San La and the airport area, 4 of us. And we ended up northeast, and from that smoke at the end of the runway, that wasn't a bomb crater smoke, that was gun barrel smoke. Because out of that smoke came the guy had one tracer in it. He'd been shooting at us now for a good 5 or 7 minutes, but we were always slightly out of range. But that one tracer came whipping by. Oh my gosh, that's a gun. That's not bomb. So I had Lou Laws was flying the Element, and I said, Lou, I want you to stay up here north a little bit. And I took my mind is shrunk right now. Bob Hanna was with me on the wing. And so I said, Bob and I are going to go down south, and I'll tell you when to roll in towards that gun, and tell me when he starts smoking. And when he starts smoking, you break it off. So Bob and I went out to the east and dropped down behind the ridge line that was south of the airport and started west south of this ridge line. And when I got to about where I thought was a beam, the airport runway, I said, okay, roll in, Lou. And Lou Glaus rolled in with his flight. He said, he's smoking. I said, good, break it off. And with that, I popped up over the ridge line with Leon with me. We have rockets and guns, and went right down behind that gun position, and we splattered in something terrible. I'm sure no one got out of that gun position. And we came off that, and I saw, and there's a truck going down the road, and I thought I could probably still put a pass on him too, so we just rolled out, slid the pipper up, and I've seen the hood, the tailgate, and everything come off the truck. Oh, the driver was instantly running down a dike towards a shed somewhere. Well, all the time this is going on, we have 4 Navy A-1s in the air, Callstein Millstone. I remember them to this day. So every time I was looking around, we'd come off one of these passes, there'd be an A-1 would go by. And we started chatting with them. I said, if we're going to be bingo fuel here shortly, if you'll just give us a little room, we'll search the area one more time and get out of here. And all that time, we're getting a call from Big Eye, which is C-121 off the coast. It's watching things going on, and he's saying, MiGs yellow, in our air sector. I'm thinking, no MiGs are going to get in here. The weather's too low. No MiGs are going to get in here. Don't worry about it. So we keep zooming around, and finally come about Bingo Fuel. I said, okay, we're joining up and getting out of here. And we start out southbound, climbing, and a Navy single F4 is on the way in. He said, what do you have in the area? I said, well, there's a gun position in the built-up area northwest, and I think we killed the one in the overrun of the runway, but there's some oddball targets around. There's a derelict airplane on the field. I don't see much of reasonable to go for. So he pressed on in, and then we went out and contacted the command post at Udorn. I forgot their call sign, but we checked in with what the mission accomplishment was for the day. So when we checked in with him, and about that time that Navy F4 came up. He said, did you hear what happened back there? I said, no, what? He said, one of those A1s just shot a MiG-17 down. So as we went out, the two MiGs came in, and I've since heard the story from the A1 pilots. They met head on, they both turned, and one of the A1s caught a MiG-17 head on and splattered him, and he went in. So those were a lot more exciting than getting shot down on the Flight 99. After that, I did a tour at TAC headquarters and went into A7 OT&E, testing the A7D, and I demonstrated that as the replacement for the A1 in Southeast Asia. And eventually I became the ops officer and the squadron commander of the Sandys with A7s in replacement for the A1 in the 72, 73 era. And so I got to fly the last day of combat in Cambodia at that time. After that, I ended up getting out of the Air Force. I came back to Shaw in 9th Air Force, flew the F-100 and the A-7 with Stan Eval, going around checking all the guard and active units east of the Mississippi. And from there, I became a guard advisor with the A-7 unit right there in South Carolina, and retired from that and went to Learjet and flew a flight test with Learjet for the next 26 years. So after 52 years of flying, somebody said I lost a night of cancer, and I got my ticket back to get back in flying status, and Learjet said, we got a job for you, come on back to work. I said, you know, I've done this for 52 years. I think I'm taking a day off. So after that, I retired and found out there was life after jets. Tough to get used to, but there was life after jets.
How many hours of flight do you think you have?
I had about 6,000 hours of 5,700 hours of fighter time in the Air Force, and I picked up somewhere in the vicinity of 12,000 hours of Learjet. But after I decided I was never going to become an airline pilot, I just stopped even counting the hours. We just flew for fun and money, I guess you'd say.
All right.